Welcome to The Explainer. All right, let's dive right into this. Today, we're transporting ourselves back in time to 7th century Mecca. We're going to break down one of the most pivotal, history-altering moments in the Seerah, the transition from absolute secrecy to the very first public proclamation of Islam at Mount Safa. So we'll map out exactly how this monumental shift happened, step by step, pulling directly from authentic hadiths and Quranic verses. We'll look at the early triumphs, the immediate pushback, and the absolutely profound courage of the very first believers. Now, to really grasp the weight of that public call, we first have to understand the immense, almost crushing pressure of the private call. Following those earth-shattering events at the Cave of Hira, the initial verses of Surah Al-Lahab came down. O you wrapped in garments, arise and warn. That was it. That was the exact moment the prophet realized the era of solitude and comfort was over. The grueling journey of pulling humanity out of darkness had officially begun. He returned home to his beloved wife carrying a burden so heavy that he uttered these words, famously recorded in Sahih al-Bukhari, "I feel danger to my life." But here's what's truly remarkable. In this incredibly fragile moment, his wife, Khadijah, provided what is arguably the greatest comfort in history. She didn't hesitate for a single second. She told him, never. By Allah, Allah will never disgrace you. You keep good relations with your kith and kin, speak the truth, help the poor and destitute, serve your guests generously, and assist those afflicted by calamity. And with that profound reassurance, Khadijah became the absolute first person in the entire universe to accept Islam. She literally dedicated her life, her wealth, and her immense love to this new path.
Okay, but the message couldn't just stay a secret between husband and wife, right? The divine command soon expanded. Surah Al-Lahab brought a clear new directive, and warn your closest kindred. This meant the prophet had to shift his focus directly to his family circle. At an event known as Dawat-e-Asheerah, he invited all the members of Banu Hashim, including prominent uncles like Abu Talib, Hamza, Abbas, and Abu Lahab, to a meal at Abu Talib's house. After they ate, the prophet stood up and addressed these powerful tribal chiefs. He spoke with deep affection but also extreme urgency. He told them he had brought them the best of this world and the hereafter, and that Allah had commanded him to call them to it. And then, he asks them a massive, game-changing question. Who among you will be my brother and my helper in this task? Imagine the dramatic tension in that room. These are wealthy, highly influential leaders. And their response? Absolute, deafening silence. Not a single chief spoke up to take on this world-changing responsibility. Then, piercing right through that heavy, uncomfortable silence, wasn't some seasoned tribal leader. It was a young boy. Ali bin Abi Talib, who was only about 13 or 14 years old at the time, stood up with just this fierce loyalty. He raised his hand and boldly declared, "O Prophet of Allah, I will be your helper. I will be your minister and helper in this path." The prophet embraced young Ali right then and there, declaring him his brother and helper. You know, this young boy's immense courage in a room completely full of silent adults, it's really one of the defining moments of early Islam. Now, beyond the immediate family, that circle of trusted believers was starting to grow. The prophet's closest friend, Abu Bakr Siddiq, accepted the message without a single moment of hesitation. In fact, the prophet later remarked that everyone he invited had some initial hesitation, except Abu Bakr. Alongside him, the prophet's freed slave and beloved companion, Zayd bin Haritha, immediately answered the call as well. Together, these early, steadfast souls would eventually establish their secret center at Dar al-Arqam. But of course, with light comes the shadow of opposition. As this secret caravan grew, a formidable enemy emerged right from within the family tree. Abu Lahab, whose real name was Abdul Uzza bin Abdul Muttalib, was the prophet's direct blood-related uncle. I mean, they shared the same grandfather. They were literal next-door neighbors. Yet, fueled by tribal arrogance, pride, and the intense pressure from Mecca's elite, this very same uncle became the absolute worst enemy of Islam, laying thorns in the prophet's path and fiercely opposing his every single move. So for 3 long years, the message was spread in absolute secrecy. But then, everything changed with a divine catalyst. Surah Al-Hijr came down, and the command was crystal clear. So proclaim that which you are commanded, and turn away from the polytheists. The time for secret gatherings in Dar al-Arqam was officially over. It was time to take the message to the entire city of Mecca. To actually execute this public proclamation, the prophet used a brilliant, culturally profound method. He climbed to the very peak of Mount Safa and shouted out, Ya Sabaha. Now, in traditional Arabian custom, this wasn't just a regular shout. This was an urgent alarm, specifically used only to warn the city of a sudden, imminent enemy attack. Hearing this specific cry, the entirety of Mecca practically dropped what they were doing and rushed to the mountain, completely bracing themselves for a severe, immediate threat. So the tribal leaders and the people are all gathered there, catching their breath, and the prophet looks down at them and asks, "If I told you an army is behind this mountain, would you believe my truthfulness?" He was establishing his credibility right there on the spot before delivering the heaviest news possible. And the crowd's response? Unanimous. They all agreed, yes, we have always known you to speak the truth. They were explicitly recognizing his lifelong flawless reputation as Sadiq and Amin, the truthful and the trustworthy. Once they had publicly confirmed his absolute truthfulness, he delivered the warning. He warned them of a severe punishment, declared that Allah is one and that he was his messenger. And how did his own blood relative react to this? Abu Lahab, literally shaking the dust off his hands in a profound display of disrespect and boiling anger, shouted in front of the entire city, "May you perish all day! Is this why you gathered us?" In a single breath, his own uncle publicly humiliated and rejected him. But you see, that ultimate disrespect absolutely did not go unanswered. The divine response was immediate, and it was permanent. Allah revealed Surah Al-Masad, also known as Surah Al-Lahab. It declares, "May the hands of Abu Lahab be ruined, and ruined is he." This wasn't just a rebuttal. It was a crystal-clear demonstration that Allah does not tolerate any disrespect towards his beloved prophet. The lines between truth and falsehood were permanently drawn on that mountain that day. The surah actually continues, stating, "His wealth will not avail him or that which he gained. He will burn in a fire of blazing flame, and his wife as well, the carrier of firewood. Around her neck is a rope of palm fiber." This marked the total promised destruction of Abu Lahab and his wife. It powerfully showed that no amount of tribal wealth, status, or even close blood relation could save someone who stood in arrogant opposition to the truth. So, to quickly summarize, this early call to Islam happened in 3 distinct, highly calculated steps. Step 1, the absolutely crucial private support of Khadija and close friends. Step 2, the family invitation, which really highlighted young Ali's immense courage. And Step 3, the bold public proclamation at Mount Safa. This journey beautifully contrasts the unshakable steadfastness of the early believers against the incredibly intense, painful opposition from the Prophet's own relatives. As we wrap up this explainer, the big takeaway here is that the path of truth is rarely easy. It's often met with opposition from the people closest to us, but the power of faith and steadfastness ultimately prevails over all darkness. So I want to leave you with a quick question. What is your biggest lesson from young Ali's resolve in that silent room? Let us know. And hey, if you want to continue learning through beautifully structured, authentic Seerah events just like this one, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Animated Quranic Tales. Keep learning, and we'll catch you in the next explainer.